Howdy y'all, I'm Kat, and today we are making an Ahriman. I'm so excited this pattern's finally out and coming to you guys. If you don't know, an Ahriman is a monster from Final Fantasy, like one of my favorite video game series. And this is my favorite monster from it. It's like, a little eyeball chicken foot guy, biblically accurate something. I just love him so much. I was actually working on this pattern when they announced that Final Fantasy Tactics is getting a remaster and re-release, which I'm like hella stoked about, taking some time off for that. And so it was like serendipitous and perfect little way to celebrate that coming out. So with all that though, let's talk about the pattern a little bit. I would say that this is like solidly an intermediate level crochet project. If you're completely brand new to crochet, may not be the best for you, but all of the different techniques that we're going to be using do have tutorials on this channel, and I'll make sure to put a card up when it's like relevant during the pattern. If you've been crocheting for a while but don't really tend to venture out of making some like standard kind of like, I don't know, blobby, potato bodied plushies. That sounded mean. It wasn't supposed to be mean. This is a great way to kind of like challenge yourself up. We're going to be doing a lot of different kind of shaping and some different stitch techniques that I think will be a good, healthy challenge to, give you a lot more confidence in the crochet that you're doing. Also, it's going to be a no-sew pattern, which I think is kind of cool. So there's no sewing involved. Everything is just going to be crocheted together, which I think is pretty neat. And then finally, we're going to release the video tutorial for it in 3 different parts. So today we're going to be doing the legs and the little toeses. Then next week we're going to be doing the wings, and then finally we'll do the tail along with the body. I think if I release this as like one video, it would probably be like, I don't know, 8-10 hours long. We'll see in the final edit on the playlist. But yeah, so we're going to release it like that. But if you're really excited and want to make it for yourself now, the written pattern in full is going to be available on the Etsy, my Etsy, Cat's Tail Design, which there'll be a link down in the description to it. But without further ado, let's talk about materials real quick. So you're gonna need all your basics, right? Like a crochet hook, some stitch markers. Depending on what yarn you use, just use a crochet hook that's 2 sizes smaller since it's amigurumi. We wanna keep our stuffing in. We're also gonna need some scissors, and since we talked about it, some stuffing as well. Now let's talk about the colors for it. As you can see, this is like fairly color intensive if you're gonna be making this version. Yarn wise, you can use whatever type of yarn you want. I probably wouldn't go bigger than a size 5. And all the yarn that I'm going to be using will be listed in the description here. The brand and the color way of it, but I'm going to go over like just the basic colors now, just so that you guys kind of know. So you're going to need an orange, which is going to be like the accent color, gray, which we're going to be using for the claws and the little tail guy. Then this yellow is going to be the main body color. Then we'll need a purple for the wings, and a black and a white for the eye. And then we also are going to use this purple and 2 more for the iris of the eye. Now let me bring you up on this iris real quick. So when we look at it, this, like what we call that lilac and maybe like a deeper, darker purple, are literally those 2 rows. So this is perfect for stash busting. If you got some yarn scraps, throw them in. We're going to be doing these as split stitches. So one row will have the tops being that color, the next row will have the bottoms in that color. So if you have enough to do like 2 rounds, I think these are both, I think one's like 20, one's 30, I think one's 30 stitches and the other one is the 20, what would that be, 24. But yeah, stash busting is what I'm trying to say. We're not using a ton of this, so don't worry about it. But I do understand that this is kind of like a big color ask for people. So check this out. There's a like simplified color version, just as cute, just as eyeball-y, just as biblically accurate, but way lower on the color scale. So for this, you're gonna need 5 colors. The body is done in this fig. The claws and the wings are done in this one. I think it was called Parchment. And then the eye is the blue for the iris, and then you still need a black and a white for the pupil and the sclera. That's right, I did go to college, and that is right, I did graduate. But yeah, again though, because of like the stash busting thing, I really do think that having like the multicolors in the iris really do kind of help create some dimension in that eye. So stash bust if you got it. I guess that would pretty much make the same color count, just -1, but you know, whatever. But yeah, that is going to be the intro. Oh, for each step that we do, we're gonna go over materials again, just so that you know what we're gonna be using in that round. But yeah, without further ado, let's go make some chicken legs, and I'll see you guys over there. Whoa, these are fun to play with, whoa. Let's get started on these toes. So let's first go over the materials. You're gonna need your crochet hook. I'm using a 3mm, but just use 2 sizes smaller than whatever your yarn recommends. Then we're gonna need stitch markers. I would say probably about 8. We're gonna make two sets of these toes. So we're going to need to leave some stitch markers in them just to make it a little bit easier for us to find stitches when we attach them to the legs. So the more the merrier. You can use yarn, just make sure you use the contrasting colors so it's easier to see. Then we're gonna need our little snippy guys. Then finally, our yarn. So if you're doing the full color version, we're gonna need the carrot and the dark heather gray. And then if you're gonna be doing the simplified color version, we'll need 2 of them. So you'll need your parchment and whatever body color. I'm using the fig. So let's get going. Now, remember how I said that this is like an intermediate level crochet project? Well, this is where that intermediacy starts. So we're gonna start off with a magic ring, but we are gonna do a color change during it. So let's just get set up with that magic ring. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Pull up my loop. Okay. Then I'm going to chain. All right, so I'm gonna do 1 single crochet, then my next single crochet, but in that single crochet, I'm gonna do a color change. So I'm gonna pull up my loop, then I'm gonna take my dark heather gray yarn, just lay it right on top, and use that to pull through. Now, it's gonna be a little bit tricky holding on to this gray. We just wanna get it out of the way for now, pick up our carrot that we were working with. Now, the easiest way to kind of do this is to situate everything so that it's under your thumb. Do you see that? I've got like everything held there. Then we're gonna go in under here, pull up our loop, and yarn over and pull through. And there we go, there's our first stitch. If your gray gets a little wonky, that's cool. You can just pull on it to tighten the loop. We just want it to be about the same size as the other loops on our hook. So we'll do 3 more single crochets in our carrot yarn. I think they're like mowing the grass outside, so sorry if you can hear that. Bloop, 2 and 3. Awesome, so we got our 6 single crochets. One of them has a top that's gonna be in that dark gray. And we're just gonna pull that tight. Nice, okay. Now I always just like to count my stitches from the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna join it. And I always like to pull these joins fairly tight. And then chain 1. All right, so next round, kind of pretty easy. We're gonna do a spiked bobble in it. So let's go on with our 2 single crochets. 1 and 2, and these are both going to be fully done in that carrot color. And now it's time to do our spiked bobble. So we're going to go into the stitch, and we want to make sure that we're catching our, oh no, we're not even going to go into the stitch. We're going to pick up our gray first, and then do our yarn over. Then we're going to go into the stitch. And I want to make sure that I'm catching that carrot colored yarn as I go, so I'm just going to throw that on top of my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 for that first step of the spiked bobble. Then I'm going to yarn over, go back in, make sure I'm still catching that carrot yarn. And then yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to pull through 2. Perfect. Give myself some more yarn. Now it's time to do the peacock, mini peacock in that spike bobble. So 1 and chain 2. Perfect. And then where is my little needle? So I'm going to go and I'm going to find, let me see if I can show you on camera a little bit easier. So there's that first back bump, and there's that second back bump of my chain. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to pull that up. So it's a lot easier to get in there, and it'll work itself back down. And then I'm going to yarn over and pretty much just pull through that loop and the next loop on my hook. Perfect. So I got 3 on there. If you got 3 on there, you did everything right. So we need to just yarn over, go through one more time, catching that carrot yarn, yarn over, pull through, and then we're going to pull through 2. And this is the last one to complete the stitch. We're actually going to complete the stitch in the carrot colored yarn. So I'm going to drop the gray, just keeping it in front of that, or behind the carrot. Pull up my carrot again, and then I'm going to yarn over and go through all 4 loops on my hook. Perfect. And then in the next 2 stitches, we're just going to encase the gray just so that we know that it's pretty well locked in there. So just put that over the hook, and we're just going to do 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2, loop this back on top. Cool. And then our third one, we don't really need to carry the gray. And we'll join it with the slip stitch. Remember, here they can get a little bit hard because we're right at the beginning, so it's not really a tube yet. It's kind of just like a flat guy. But if you look really close, we have the stitch that we're working into. This next one that looks like it would be a stitch is our join, and then our chain, which is that little tiny bump. So I'm gonna just go then into that actual first stitch, right past that chain, and do a slip stitch, pull that really tight to join it. And we can cut our gray yarn, just leaving, I don't know, like maybe like an inch-ish of work. And then the next couple of rounds are going to be pretty easy. We're just going to do, I'm going to chain, and then we're just going to do 6 single crochets around 2 times. So remember, I'm working into that same stitch that I joined into. 1, 2. Now this stitch in the back will be easy to see because it's just the carrot one. It looks like a normal stitch, just really long. But again, that tension will get worked out in a minute here. So that's our 3rd, our 4th, woo. 5, and 6. So one thing to kind of note, whenever you're working in these small tubes, they can be kind of difficult because they'll either want to go like in too much or they'll want to flare out to the back. So just kind of like re-pushing everything where you want it to be when you complete a round kind of helps with that. So now we'll go into that join. Ooh, maybe we'll go into that join. May I please go into this join? Sure can. Awesome. Slip stitch, join that, pull that tight. And pulling that tight is going to help really bring everything in towards the center to make it a tube. So I'm going to chain, I'm going to do 1 more of those 6 single crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, need a little bit more yarn. 5. One thing too to be kind of mindful of is we are avoiding hitting those little tails that we have in the center. So just try not to catch those because we're going to need to hide them and pull on them later. 4, 5. And see, that's all my stitches. And I know that because I have that join and then that tiny little bump. So there's our 2 rounds of 6 single crochets. And in this next round, it's just going to be single crochets again. But what we're going to do is we're going to mark one of our stitches. So have that stitch marker handy. Pulling the join tight. And then I'm going to mark the 5th stitch that we do in this round. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's place a stitch marker in here. Lock that in place. And our last stitch, maybe get all that stuff out of the way. Okay. So we can now join this final round of toe number 1. Join that, pull it tight, give it a good chain. Whoop. To lock that in place, pull it through. You only really need an inch here, and then we're gonna give it a cut. So before we move on to the next toe of the sequence, what we need to do is pull these little gray tails, because what that's gonna do is it's gonna get rid of like this gray that's showing. We're gonna just tighten that stitch up. Nice, and check around it, make sure that you don't have any stray pieces of that gray showing. Looks like we're good here. And then we're just gonna stuff all of the tails except for the one from our join. We're gonna stuff all of these guys inside. Just use your hook, use something big enough to go in there. I've actually found if you have an iPad, using the stylus is like the perfect size to get these in. Can be kind of like a bear and kind of tricky, but if you kind of like aim for the yarn itself, right, and then just like push it against the wall, they'll get in there. Cool. Nice. And then really just gonna push those into that end, like this far side of the toe, because it's gonna make it nice and bulbous for us. Cool, so that's toe 1. And all the toes are worked pretty much the same way. We are gonna be joining them in sequence. So let's go ahead and do toe 2. I'm not gonna talk us through it because we pretty much already know how to do a toe. So I'll just show you each round after we've completed it. Cool? Cool. Round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, round 6, and round 7. So I've got my stitch marker in the 5th stitch of that round and this long little toe guy. We're gonna do the same thing as we did before, where I'm gonna pull on those gray tails just to tighten that stitch up. How's that look? Looks good to me. Give it just a couple more, just for prosperity. And let's stuff those tails in. So once we get these tails stuffed in, let me talk you through what we're gonna do next. We're gonna attach this toe to the first toe that we did. And it's pretty easy. We're just gonna do some loops, and because we have those stitch markers in, well, get out of there. Because we have those stitch markers in, it's gonna be pretty easy to find out where those stitches need to go. So let's just embody this in. This is what I mean when sometimes they can be a little angry, but this is your new home. This is also gonna act as the stuffing for our toes, because we're not actually gonna put any fiber fill in here, polyfill, if you will, in there. All right, so I got that all in. Grab my hook. Okay, so round 8, we're going to attach. So the first step is going to make our chain for the round. I'm going to put a single crochet into that first stitch. And I am going to mark this single crochet as well. That's because once we attach these to the leg, this single crochet is going to be helpful to know where it is. So I just say stitch marker it, and then we don't have to hunt for it later. All right, so for our toe attachment, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our first little toe, we're gonna find the 6th stitch of that last round, which should be right next to the stitch marker. And if we're looking at the tube from the inside, we're gonna wanna go into the back loop of that stitch. So I'm gonna first just insert my hook into that back loop. Now I'm gonna grab my yarn, kind of push that tail out of the way. And this next stitch on my toe, so I just worked into that one. So this next one right here, I wanna go into the front loop of that. So we're doing back loop of toe number 1 to front loop of toe number 2. And we're just gonna slip stitch those 2 bad boys together. Nice, and pull that a little tight. Now we can take out our stitch marker of our toe number 1. Then I'm gonna go into the back loop again, and then I'm gonna go into the front loop of our next stitch. A little bit easier to identify this time. And I'm gonna slip stitch those together. Whoa. And we're gonna chain to lock that work in place. And then we can cut this, leaving about a 1-inch tail, and we'll pull it tight. Cool, so that is toe number 1 and toe number 2 attached together. A little wonky right now, but they'll get real stable real soon. So let's go ahead and work on toe number 3, which, unsurprisingly, is gonna be pretty much the same as toe number 1. So we'll do what we did last time. Round 1, round 2. Oh, I forgot to cut the string. Round 2. Round 3. Round 4. And here's round 5. And I got that stitch marker in the 5th stitch. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna join this round. And we're gonna do exactly like what we did before. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Awesome. Pull that tight first, actually. Yeah. Okay. And give a tug on these grays to tighten them up. Check to make sure we like it. Yeah, I like it. And go ahead and stuff in these tails. Now this one's gonna get attached the exact same way. We're just gonna be going into the stitches in a different round. Well, these ones are stubborn. Here we go. Nice. Another good trick is if you actually lick whatever you're stuffing with, because then the extra friction kind of helps to get everything in there. Kind of grody, but you know, whatever. Not the worst thing I put in my mouth. Let's just say that. Alrighty. So for our round 6, what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain. I'm gonna put a single crochet in there, and I'm gonna mark this stitch for later when we do our legs. Ooh. Perfect. Now let's grab our big toes. And this time we're gonna be working into the big toe, or I guess toe number 2. So let's go ahead and locate. Here's the stitch marker that marked the 5th stitch. So I'm gonna work into this stitch to the right of it. I'm gonna go into the back loop. Remember, we're considering it from the hole. So I'm going into the back loop of there, picking up my yarn, getting all these markers out of the way. Kind of rascally right now with all those markers, but trust me, they're going to be way more helpful than they are a hindrance. So then in that next stitch right there, I'm going into that front loop, and I'm just going to slip stitch those together. Oops. Wily was the right word. We got it. All right, cool. So now we find the stitch marker in our middle toe, toe number 2. Gonna take that out, go into the back loop of that, and then the front loop of toe number 3. And we're gonna just slip stitch those together. Whoa, get out of there, Mr. Marker. And pull that tight. And chain to lock that in place and pull these out. Cut it, leaving about an inch as normal. And there we go. We've got our toes all done. They're super cute. They're all pokey and stitched markered up right now, but soon they will be part of a foot. So you made one. Go ahead and make yourself another, and we'll move on to the legs. So I'll give you a pause right here so you can do that, and then I'll see you in a second for the leg time. Do. Toe, 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 to toe. Boop. Okay, so it's time for the legs. Let's go over materials. You're gonna need your little toe guys. You'll need your hook like normal, probably 1 stitch marker, some polyfill, your scissors, and then yarn wise. So for the yarn, if we're doing the full color version, you're gonna need both the carrot and the mustard. But if you're doing the simplified version, you're just gonna need whatever you're using for your body, which for us is the fig. Fig. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, so now the leg isn't very complicated, but it's detailed. Though there's a lot of shaping that goes on. We are also going to use some of the patch shaping method, but I'll throw a link up to there when we get to it and we'll discuss more. So let's go ahead and go in with the carrot. If you're doing the simplified version, you just use the fig. Okay. So we're going to start off with the magic ring, but unlike most magic rings, this magic ring is special because this magic ring is only going to have 5 stitches in it. So let me just get into there, pull up my loop, and like I said, we're just going to do 5 single crochets into this magic ring. Going to start off fairly simple here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so pull that tight. And then I'm just going to count from the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we are. And once we get into there, our first step is going to be to do an increase. So pretty simple. Remember, I like to do the invisible increases. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through that front loop for my first single crochet. For my first single crochet of the increase. Then I go through both loops. Can you see that? Kind of. Ooh. There we go. I go through both loops for my second. And we're just going to do that all the way across. So that should end us up with 10 stitches. There's my 4th. Looks like everybody else is waking up around me, so the traffic's getting a little bit louder. Let's see how many motorcycles go through as we're filming this. They're always the loudest. I don't understand why they're so loud. Like, cars have mufflers, motorcycles have mufflers. Maybe it's because the engine's exposed. I don't know, but it seems kind of crazy that they're so loud. All right, yeah, there's my join. Okay. So there's my 10th one. And I'm just going to go ahead and join that up with the others. Awesome. Pull that tight. All right, so this is going to be the pad of our foot. So we're going to start working up from here, and to turn our stitches so that we're working up, we're going to do some back post single crochets, and that's just going to be 10 of those. So to do those, we're going to go into our stitch from the back, making sure our yarn is behind our hook when we do that, then just go around the post and then do a single crochet as normal. Whoa, there we go. And then into the next stitch, yarn's behind the hook when I'm entering. I think that's the step that a lot of people kind of mess up with when they're doing back posts, is they forget that you need to have the yarn behind you. Because if it's in front, you'll end up picking up an extra loop, which we don't want. Or slip stitches. All right, so there's my third one. And my fourth. Fifth. Sixth. Seventh. 8. And let me show you what happens when we go. So there's the 9th into this 10th one. The 10th one can always be kind of tricky because we have our stitch right here, then we have our join, and then our other stitch that we're working into is right back there. So the way that I like to think about it is we go into that stitch and we kind of aim for this one. So I'm gonna go here and it feels like we're gonna be going low and then push through. It seems a little bit further, you'll find it, you'll get it. Oop. Or you'll lose it, like me. It's okay, we can just go back in there. All right. There's our last one. So I always just like to count because, again, because of how that last one can be finicky, it's always just good to count whenever you do back double or back crochets, singles or doubles, I suppose. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Perfect. So let's go ahead and just join those together. All right. So let's get that all situated. Our next round is where we're going to be joining our toes. Now it can be a little bit tricky to see the stitches that we need to go into, so let me just show you this image real quick. So this image shows for round 4 and round 5. Round 4 is going to be the one that's in the red. So what we're going to do is those two little toes on the outside, we're going to put a stitch in the side of them, then in the bottom, then in the bottom of the middle, bottom of the next outside toe, and then the side of the next house toe. And then we'll just continue single crocheting around. Kind of makes sense. I think that image kind of helps to visualize where we're going here. So let's go ahead and we'll chain 1. We're going to first do 3 singles. 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll grab one of our toes. Doesn't matter which one you grab since they're both the same. And we're always going to be working from the inside of the tube to the outside of the tube whenever we work into our toes, when we're attaching them at least. So let's go ahead. Our first stitch is going to be in that 5th stitch that we marked on our last toe. So remember, these 2 stitches at the top are marking a single crochet. That would be the first stitch of the round, and then this last one should be marking that 5th stitch. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that out. And this time we're actually going to go underneath that full stitch. Nice. And single crochet it to our body. So there's my next body stitch. Foot stitch. Leg stitch, that's what we're calling it. And, looks like I got a snag. There we go. And single crochet. So there's the side of the foot. This next stitch right here is going to be the bottom stitch of the foot. So I'm going to go fully through that, fully through the next one over here. and single crochet those together. Now the next stitch will be kind of the trickier one to find. So this is a stitch that we joined in. You can kind of see, if the camera focuses, you can kind of tell because it's pulled out just the front part of that stitch. You see how it's kind of joined with just what would have been one of the loops of the stitch. So we want to skip over that one, see where it's going into here. So it looks like it's going into that stitch over here. So that's how I know that this next stitch is going to be the one for the middle toe. So I'm going to go in there, look over here for my next stitch, go in there, and single crochet those together. Then we'll do the same thing. So this next stitch is the join, a lot easier to see here. There's that other join. So I'm going to go underneath the next stitch, and we're going to single crochet into there. And then we're good. So then we go into our next stitch of our toe. Ooh, got one of the tails on the back there, which will be right here. So I'm going to go into there and attach that to my next stitch on my leg, I guess my foot pad. And good. And then that should leave us with 2 single crochets on the pad just to work. And it looks like we got that. So we did it well. 1 and 2. Cool. So those are connected. Those are looking good. Now let's bring up that image again, right over here. So for round number 5, what we're going to do is we're not going to be connecting our toes into the foot pad. We're just going to work over them. So we're going to go ahead and put one in the side of the small toe. Then we're going to decrease one of the toes to the next one. Then we're going to do a thing that I call a half decrease, which, like, instead of working over 2 stitches, we're going to connect the one that we already just worked into the next stitch. Then we're going to work into the side of the next toe, and then we're just going to single crochet to close it off. Sounds a little bit more complicated, but it's pretty easy in theory, and because you already marked all the stitches we need to work into, well, most of the stitches we need to work into, it's going to be a lot easier to figure this out. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let me join the round we just did. So I'm going to join that, pull it a little tight, and then I'm going to slip stitch. So we're going to start off with 3 single crochets. Super easy. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So our next stitch, we're going to ignore the foot pad and we're going to go directly into the toe. So if I pull this to the side, there's that stitch that was the one that we connected in the last round, and I have this free stitch right here. So I'm going to go into there, and I'm going to single crochet just into that toe stitch. All right. So our next stitch that we want to work is a decrease, which is going to be these 2 stitches that we marked. They're going to be the stitches number 1 of that extra round that we put in toe 3 and toe 2. So let's just go ahead and get the stitch markers out of there. And I like to just take these one at a time to make it easier. I'm doing invisible decreases, so I'm just going through the front loop of that one. Then I'm going to take the one out of here, and I'm going to go through the front loop of that one. Nice. And I'm going to do a decrease. Okay, so let's get all of our tails kind of towards the back. Now this next one is where we're going to do the half decrease. Now the stitch that we need to work into in here is where our join was. So if we kind of pull this join up, I can see right there, there is a place for me to place this stitch. Do you see that? I have my join, and it's our join stitch. So to do the half increase, or the half decrease, sorry, the stitch that I just worked into is a stitch that I want to go into. So I'm going to pick up both of those loops that we just went under, right? So we have both of those front loops in it again. Then I'm going to go and pick up the front loop of where we joined. Remember, this is an intermediate pattern. Oh, I think I got both. Oh, I got 0. Use my finger, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So now I'm just gonna yarn under all those and do a single crochet. And that's really just gonna pinch all these toes together so that they wanna hang out and be friends. So now I'm gonna do a single crochet into the next stitch of my toe, under both. Ooh, maybe, under both. Cool. And that should leave us with 2 stitches on our pad. And we can see that this stitch from the toe is being joined into there. So I know that my next stitch is gonna be right into here. So I'm just gonna go into there, do 1 single crochet, go into my next one and do a single crochet. And that is all of our toe attachment rounds. Pretty simple, pretty easy peasy. So let's go ahead and join this round and we'll move on to the next. Okay, I'm just gonna crochet to lock that in place. All right, so before we actually go into the next round, let's just go ahead and tuck in our tails to make our lives easier. We'll have one for where we started the magic ring, and then we'll have the 3 left over from our toes. I kind of just like to try to shove these tails down into our toes because remember, again, that's how we're stuffing them. Doesn't really matter too much where they go as long as they're out of the way. That's all we really want. And this is where that thing that I was telling you about with the aiming, I think I'm gonna lick the hook. Don't do it. I'm gonna do it. Don't do it. Yeah. Got it. See, so much nicer. Kind of grody, but so much nicer. Yeah, there we go. All right. So those are in there, and that other one can just chill out in the base. Oh, which is right here. You get in here. Or maybe I'll put you in a toe too. You might notice that we can kind of see where we put those decreases. Don't worry, because the other stitches are really gonna help fill that space out, as well as we're gonna be hunched over and we're not putting stuffing into that space really. So you'll be completely fine. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to round 6, which is gonna be fairly easy. We're gonna do 2 single crochets. So remember, we work into our joined rounds, our joined stitch. So there's 1, there's 2, and now we're going to work 3 decreases. These are just gonna be regular decreases. So I'm gonna go into my first stitch. These can be hard to find because they're over the toes, but just be careful. Going into our first stitch, going into our next stitch, yarning over, pulling through. There's 1 decrease. Then let's go into our next one. These ones are kind of tilted, so it's those 2 right there. So I'm gonna go into 1. Ooh, maybe. I'm gonna go into 1, into the next. Remember, you do have a hook on your hook. I'm gonna yarn over, pull through both of those, do my single there. And then our last one, which is really gonna be turned into the front. This can be tricky. We're working in a small tube, but again, just be patient. Use every part of your hook. Use your fingers if you need to. But we got in there pretty easy. Said the voice crack. All right, and then 1 single crochet just to finish off the round. Nice. Okay, so let's join. Boop, boop. There's my join stitch. Pull that a little tight. And we got our toast in. Nice. So next round is just going to be 6 single crochets all the way around. So I chained right there, doing 1, 2, 3. This can be tricky again because those stitches won't really want to be facing towards the inside. It's 4. Here's 5 and 6. If you're not used to working into tubes like this, you can. I've seen people use like another hook that's like maybe bigger to kind of push inside and then work kind of around that pole so that it helps kind of keep those stitches open. But you'll find a way. I believe in you. Even if it is pulling up each loop before you go into it with like a needle or whatever. All right, so joining. That was round 7 complete. So now we're going to go into round 8, and round 8 is where things are going to get nice for us for a little bit. So we're going to chain 1, do 2 single crochets, and then 2 or 3 increases. So I'm going to do invisible ones again. So let's locate our next stitch. Here we are. So I'm going to go into the front of that stitch, do a single crochet. And then this is where that tube work kind of gets hard. It's really hard to see like deep in there where that second loop is. So I'm going to go in, going to aim for underneath it. Got it. So there's increase number 1. Now I'm going to go into my next stitch. If I pull these, I see that one's coming out of there. So here's my next one. So increase number 2. Then kind of dig in there for that loop. Got it. And then locate the next stitch to be worked into, which is going to be this one. And do increase number 3. Perfect. And then end it off with a single crochet, and let's join this together. Perfect. All right. So now it is time to stuff this. So what we're going to be aiming for when we're stuffing our foot is we just want to fill out this area. So this is like kind of a good way to kind of get a bearing. Push it down the way that it's supposed to be. Look how cute that is. And what we're going to do is we want to fill out the stuffing so that it keeps pretty much this shape. We don't want any bulging. We just want to make it a little bit more structural so that like we can't do that. You know what I mean? So start with less than you actually think you're going to need. Like we'll see what that looks like, but I'm pretty sure that that's going to be enough. And we'll go ahead and get that in this bad boy. Ooh, the lighting's gone pretty sultry. It's like a kind of overcast today where I'm at, so the sun keeps on kind of poking out. So the lighting looks kind of different. Mother Nature is just winking at us, I suppose. Okay, let's get in there. This is in. Oh, like, this is like kind of hard to get into here. I mean, you see me struggling, right? But I'm kind of balling it all in one location, and then I'm taking my hook and I'm pushing it down, stabbing it in, pushing it down, stabbing it in. Okay. So yeah, that might have been even a little too much, but we'll see what it looks like. Another thing is that with the stuffing in here, we want this little, this is going to be our ankle joint as well, and we want this to be really mobile. So we don't actually want to put, I don't know if you can see in there, but my stuffing is only coming up to about here. And I'm going to leave that space without any stuffing just so that it can move. I'm kind of not pushing it into the toes, but I'm aiming it down there a little bit. And I think that feels good. That might have been slightly too much, but I think we're good. We're not really bulging out anywhere, except for that bottom. Maybe I'll pull out a little, but no, I think I like it. I think it feels good right there. This is still movable. Sweet. So we've got our first little bit of stuffing in there. And now is where we're going to get to our kind of creative point. So one thing that you may not have noticed is when I'm doing the color transitions here, I'm trying to make it look like organic and bleed. Do you see how those colors kind of just like bleed into each other? And there isn't really like a straight line or anything. I think it just gives it a more, I don't know how you would say it, like monstrous kind of look to it. So that's what we're gonna do. So in these next rounds, I'll put the instructions up on the screen as normal, but we're gonna throw in some color changes. We're gonna do some split stitches, but we're just kind of gonna listen to our ancestors and do it how we feel. There isn't a right or a wrong way to go about doing this. The goal is we're gonna do round 9 like this, and we're gonna do round 10 like this, and then we're gonna switch to just using the full mustard color yarn. Of course, if you are doing the simplified color version, ignore everything I just said and continue just working fully in your what color I'm using, Fig or whatever color you got. Okay, so I got my join. I'm gonna chain. So this first round is gonna be 4 single crochets. So I think I'm gonna put 1 in, get my mustard in here. We're gonna be carrying and encasing this yarn as we go about. Let's get my mustard in there. Cool. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Catching that guy. And then I want to do 3 increases. So there's increase number 1. And then, ooh, gosh. Then increase number 2. Going pretty hard on the yellow on that one. So there's increase number 2. Let's keep this one kind of simple. 3. And this is what I mean, where it's like kind of just do it as it feels right. Okay, so that should be the end of my, oh, I only need 3 increases, huh? That's what I said. That's what it says up there. So let's recount. 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, increase 1, increase 2, increase 3. Okay. So I just can't count. So here's my 3rd increase, and then it should just be 2 single crochets. So we'll just do 1 here and 2 here. Depending on how you did your split stitches in this round, it can be kind of tricky to see those stitches. So I think it's just a good idea to go ahead and count just to make sure that you did everything right, because obviously I almost tripped up there. So let's see where we're at. I'm just gonna put that chain in there too, just to make sure we're doing good. So that was in my first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and join and chain. So yes, we are where we need to be. All right, so then our next round is gonna be almost like the same, but we wanna put more of the yellow in this round because we're gonna be transitioning fully to the yellow in the next one. So let's go ahead and start with our 5 singles. I'm gonna pull this yellow up to its new spot. So 1, oh, that tail's getting in the way. There we go. I think what I'm gonna do is actually, because that was kind of difficult, we'll work this part in orange. Maybe. Oh, there's like a, do you see that there's like the tiniest little hair there? There we go. So there's my 2, 3. Let's do the bottom of this one in orange. Switch back over here. And I think I want this whole one to be in orange. So that was 4, and this should be 5. Yeah, whole one in orange. Let's double check that because I was doing a lot of color switching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. We're going to do 3 increases again, and we're going to make sure that we count them correctly this time. So I'm going to go in here. So there's 1. And the second round of my increase. I feel like I always kind of go crazy on the increases with like the color changes when there's like, bro, there's like no reason to be going this hard. But I don't know, you know. Sometimes we flex, sometimes our ancestors want us to put increases, to do color changes during increases. I don't know what it is. So there's 1. 2. Actually, let's switch to our orange because we're about to do a whole bunch of yellow. 2, right? Yes, 2, and then 3. Let's get that over here. Cool. So there's my 3rd increase, and I should have 4 single crochets left to do. Which I don't. I only have 2 spaces. So what did I do here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Increase 1, increase 2, increase 3. And I just really, really want to be doing 4 increases today. I tell you what. So let's get that undone. I still don't think that accounts for where our stitches should be. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, no. Okay, so it looks like I missed a stitch somewhere along the line. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Increase 1, increase 2, increase 3. And then if I look over here, I have 1, 2, 3, and I believe that is my join. We are troubleshooting in live time, guys. Yeah, so that is my join. So I missed a stitch. So let's look really close at what I did. When we're doing these color changes, yeah, so it's that orange. Do you see that right there? So there's that orange stitch that because it was a top, it got really tiny, and that's where my issue lies. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick that up. That should be our last increase in that little guy. We're gonna pull it up in orange to honor it. Oh, and that was supposed to be an increase. So let's go into that front loop. And through both loops. Oop, it's a front loop again. Oh gosh. There we go. It's getting real bright. After this row, I think I'm gonna go and adjust my curtains. Okay, so that's our increase. We are back on track. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 singles and our join. All right, we did it, folks. We did it. We got there. But good example of how to kind of troubleshoot. You know, I think a lot of the times we kind of just get to the end of the row. If it's not working, we undo the whole thing, but there's no need to do that. You just gotta kind of, if you pay attention, you can sometimes save yourself from doing a whole bunch of extra work. All right. And remember, we're gonna be transitioning to only working in yellow in this next round. So we really want to have our final pull through of this round be in that yellow. So I'm just gonna do that with this stitch. Oh, I didn't even encase that orange. Let's encase that. Nice, okay. Awesome, so my final pull through is in yellow, and that means that I can join in that yellow, and that's where we wanna be because we wanna work. Say it with me, y'all. The rest of this in yellow. Okay, so let me join that in. I'm gonna give that just a nice little chain to lock it in place. We can cut our orange yarn, leave a little bit longer of a tail this time. Let's give it like 2 inches, just so that we can encase it in our first couple of stitches of the next round, just to make sure that it stays locked in there. And then let's hope that we don't get a crazy knot. Oh, looks like we might have. Nice. Yeah, okay, cool. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go adjust the lighting real quick so that you guys can see a little bit better. And I'll be right back and we'll continue on with the leg. Okie dokie, and we're back. Hopefully you guys can see a little bit better, less high contrast. But here we go with our little transition row, and now it's time to work up the rest of the leg. Right now we're gonna be working on the calf. So it's gonna be some increases, pretty simple stuff. But to go ahead, let's start off with 6 single crochets. And we wanna encase that little orange tail just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So there's 1, and there's 2. That should be enough with encasing the orange. 2, 3, 4. Ooh. 5 and 6. All right, and now we're just gonna do some increase repeats, where we're gonna increase and then do a single crochet. We're gonna do that 3 times. So increase, single 1. These stitches, because of the color changes, might be a little bit difficult to work into, but just be mindful that we don't skip stitches that are tiny like we did last time. And we should be good. So increase, single 2. Increase. Single 3. And we're gonna go ahead and end this off with just 3 single crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, and 3. Perfect, so let's go ahead and just join this. And we should be good. So let me see. Oh my God, Suri's going crazy. Who said that I wanted your help? Please go ahead. Thank you. All right, these are the troubles that we go through with technology. All right. So well, first things first, I'm just gonna get these tails pushed on into the inside so that they're kind of out of the way for us. Let's go ahead. I think this is a good time for our bigger poker. Maybe. Thumb poker? Finger poker? There we go. We just want them out of the way, so they don't even really need to be tucked in anywhere. All right, round 12 is just going to be 18 stitches around. Good way to check to make sure we're on the right path. One, two. Yeah, I feel like using natural lighting is a blessing and a curse. You know, I mean, we got the sun, and the sun's cool. Big fan. I'm more of a night owl, to be fair, but I like eating vegetables and fruit and getting that vitamin D. But also the clouds like to come in and change the lighting up on us. So I don't know. Comment, like, subscribe. Let's get us more subscribers to this channel. I can get monetized and then buy myself some ring lights and be like a true professional. There we go. I'm also down for like lighting suggestions. I don't really know that much about it. I only know that ring lights exist, to be fair. I don't even know how you are supposed to set them up, because I think you need like 2 or 3 of them, right? To like counteract the shadows. I don't know. But let's see. This is 17 and 18. Perfect. And then row 13 is going to be part of our shaping rows. So we're actually going to start off with a decrease and a single crochet, and we're going to do that 2 times. So remember, invis, I'm going to go into the front of the first one, into the front of the second one. So there's decrease, then single 1, decrease, single 2. And now we'll just do 12 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whoop. 11 and 12. Easy peasy. Join that. Oh wait, yes, join that. We are going to start working in rounds now. Starting from here, we're not going to join with slip stitches anymore. So round 14, we're going to chain, do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Then I'm going to put in 1 more decrease. Cool. Then 10 single crochets. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we're going to end off this row, or round, sorry, with 1 more decrease. Okay. So, because we're going to stop working in joins, what I'm going to start doing is using a stitch marker. Whenever I work in rounds, I have like 20 stitch markers. Here is one. Whenever I work in rounds, I kind of just like to use a stitch marker because I can get lost pretty easily. One of the things that I really liked about having the joined rounds is it's pretty easy to see like where you need to start and where you need to begin. But that's neither here or there. So let's go ahead and work our first stitch of round, where are we, 15. So I'm gonna single crochet into there. And I'm gonna go ahead and mark it so I know where my first stitch is. Nice. Now we're gonna do a single crochet 3 together. I'm gonna do this as an invisible 1-2, and all this means is in a decrease we do 2 stitches together. On a single crochet 3 together, that's right, it's 3 single crochets that we do together. But that's not the next stitch, that's actually coming up, sorry. So that's 6 stitches first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Make sure I did that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 6. All right, so let's do our 3 together. So to do this invisibly, we're going into our next stitch, right? I'm going to go into that one, into the next one, like it was a regular decrease, and then into the third one. And then I'm going to yarn over, pull through all 3 of those. Nice, and single crochet. Easy peasy. So now we need to do an increase. So find our next stitch. And we're going to do one more of those 3 togethers. Seems kind of weird to do it in that order, but again, this is kind of part of that shaping that we're doing. Cool. And then we end this round with a single crochet. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to start working in those patch style shaping methods. So if you need kind of a refresher, the video's right up here for it. We're gonna work some single crochets, chain, skip, and finish with some more single crochets. It's important that before the first stitch before the chains and the first stitch after the chains, we're not just going through the top of our stitch, we're going into the back leg loop of the stitch as well. This video is going to go into a lot of detail on how to find that stitch. I'm going to show you how I'm going to find it as we're going around here. It can be a little bit tricky. You will most likely need another needle to kind of get into there, but we'll make do. So we're going to start with 5 single crochets, and that 5th one is going to go into that leg. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now my next one's going to go into the leg. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this out, and let's go into this little guy right here. Where is my needle? And I'm probably going to use a stitch marker. All right, so this is the next stitch that we're working into, right? And if we kind of go into that back loop and we look directly underneath it, that's the leg of that stitch. There's 2 loops hidden right here. It's kind of hard to find them, but if I go up into here, then come maybe scoot back, there's that other loop. That's the leg loop that I want to be working into. So I want to be working into, there we go, this loop. So I want to go through both of these front loops and this back leg loop. Now, as you can see, it's pretty difficult to get in there. Even just pulling it out with a needle sometimes isn't sufficient. So I would say that the easiest way to do this is going to just throw a stitch marker into that little loop that you need, and then we will kind of use that stitch marker to help us as we're working into it. So here's my 5th single crochet before the chains, and I'm gonna go into both of these loops, and then I need to go into that leg loop as well, which I'm just gonna pull that stitch marker up and over my hook. Did you see how I do that? I think my hand was in the way. Let's do that one more time. Okay, so I went through both of those loops, and then I have my stitch marker in that other loop that I need that's gonna be super tight. I'm just gonna pull that up and over. And there we go, and just regular single crochet. All right. The only reason we're doing that is it's really easy to get gaps when you work in this patch method, and that's really gonna help us not get a gap when we do this. Now, that being said, we're going to chain 6 and then do another single crochet. That's gonna be the final single crochet of the round, and it's going to be made in the first stitch of the round. Kind of just weird counting method, that's just how it's gonna go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get ourselves all prepped and ready, and I'm actually just gonna pull out that leg stitch now. So let's go ahead and take this out. We still can see where we're supposed to go. Let's get another quick look at this. So there's the 2 loops of the stitch I need to go in. If I follow what would be the back loop from the other side, I get right into here. This is the stitch that I'm gonna wanna go into. Oop. Make sure I only got one of them. Oh, I think I got both. Or is the yarn? Nope, this yarn is just splitty. Okay, cool. Yep. So let's just go ahead, keep that stitch marker in there for when we come around. Because we're gonna be working chains, and we don't want our chains to be too tight because we're gonna be working into both sides of these chains. So keep them loose. If you do tend to work a little bit tighter, you might want to make these chains using a hook size larger. But let's just go ahead and chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I'm gonna go into the next stitch that I need to work. Remember, we've got that leg loop on our stitch marker. So I'm gonna go through both loops there, and like last time, I'm just gonna, this is gonna be hard for me to kind of maneuver on camera. I'm gonna just lift that stitch marker and put it over my hook. I'm so sorry, I'm trying to do this so you can see. Okay, I think that's the best I'm gonna do. So I got that loop on there now too. Take out the stitch marker, and we're gonna single crochet there. Awesome. Things to kind of note is try not to get your chain all twisted, which I think we did a good job here. And that last part of the chain can still get pulled. Like if I look at this, that little bump right there is actually going to be the back bump of the chain. So when we come and work into it, I'll show you what we'll do to kind of alleviate that. But that is going to be round, what is that, 16. So a little difficult, not too crazy, but still a little crazy. So let's go on to our next one. We're gonna do 3 single crochets. So there's 1. Gonna go ahead and mark that as our first stitch of the round. Nice. Then 2 and 3. We're gonna do an increase in our next stitch, which is right here. Ooh. There we go. That's the one that we worked into the leg. So it's gonna be tight, which is exactly what we want. Where is that other loop of that? Oh, there it is. There we go. All right, so there's our increase. So now it's time to work into the chains. Remember when we have the chain, we have a front loop and then we have a back bump. What we are gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna go through both of these front loops when we work our single crochets. Think about it as like the reverse of what we're doing when we work through the back bump, right? Because when we work through the back bump, we're separating those two front V's from the back bump. We're doing the exact same thing here. We're just doing it from the opposite side. So let's get 6 single crochets. Now, if we look real closely, this is actually going to be our first chain. It might be a little bit smaller. It might look a little bit wonky, but there's that back bump of it. I'm going to go into there. I got one part of it. I got 2 parts of it. This is going to be a very finger heavy kind of, what am I looking, finger heavy section. There we go. And to make things easy so that you don't lose your space, I kind of just like to mark that first one that we did. Just because we're going to be concentrating a lot, and I feel like it's easy, at least for me, to forget what I'm doing. It's going to be hard to see those back bumps sometimes, but they're there. Just make sure that you go through both front V's if you need to. Use your fingers. There we go. So there's our number 2. Nice. Then number 3, locate it. One other thing is, because we're working into those back bumps, these stitches can have a tendency to sit pretty far back. So just kind of be mindful that you're working into the right stitch. I think once you work into this one, we'll really get to see the positioning of these. So there's 3. And here's kind of what I'm saying. So here's the stitch that we worked. There's the chain. The next space we need to go into is actually that one down there, which looks really far away, but it's right. So let's go ahead and get into here. So there's our 4. Let's just double check. Yep, we're back, that back bump. All right, and then again, see how far back that stitch is? Here's where we need to work. We know that because we can see our stitch coming out of the side of that chain. So this one's the next one we need to go into. This is where things are going to get a little bit tricky. It's going to be tighter because it's the last one, last ones, and it's that back bump might have gotten pulled forward. So just make sure that you're going through all the right spaces. The reason that I'm harping on this so much is it's really going to make your life so much easier when we have to come back to work into this. So just go slow and be careful. All right. So now we have our last chain, and our last chain looks like it had a rough night. So let's help it out here. If we look closely, here's the chain that we just worked into. And this next chain, this little guy is that back bump. This would be the front loop. And then this over here would be the back loop of those V's. So what you can do is just kind of tutor that back bump back by either, like, sometimes you can pull on it and it'll go back, but that's not happening for this one. So let's just go ahead and we're going to pick up the loop for it. Make sure we're going into the right spot. And pick up this other loop for it. And then kind of really just pull those forward, and that's going to move that back bump to where it needs to be. Now, it's not going to make it easier, well, I guess it makes it easier to work in, but that back bump will want to come to the front. Once it gets a taste of the light, it's very, very happy to be there. So let's see if we are good. Yeah, it looks like we're good. So there's the last stitch that we worked into. Do you see how that's going into there? So let's pick up the front and pick up that back. Sorry. Double check that we've got, yeah, we got that back loop on there. Cool. So there is our 6th one. So we can go ahead and take out that stitch marker that we're using. And you made it. that was a little tricky one. So the very last thing that we need to do is to work a increase. Don't get fooled. This stitch is just getting pulled tight because we just worked into that last chain, but this is the last stitch of the round. So you see that super tiny guy? So let's just go ahead and throw an increase into U. Again, that one's going to be tight because it doesn't have that much wiggle room like the rest of our stitches do, because it's in that leg stitch as well. All right, so we got that increase. We are good. So I hope you are happy and excited, because we're gonna need to do this process over again now. I know, I'm sorry, but such is life. If you want those good, thick, healthy gams, sometimes you gotta pay the price for them, whether it's in the gym or in your crochet. So let's go ahead and take out the stitch marker. Our first stitch is going to be an increase for around, what are we on, 18? So I'm gonna go in there, do my first stitch of the increase and my second stitch of the increase, and I'm gonna mark that first stitch because it's our first stitch of the round. And I'm actually gonna back out, because here again is where we need to put another one of those leg stitches. So to do this in the increase, I like to do both of the increases first just because of the tension control, but you can do this part first if you'd like. So let's bring it over to the back. Now we're gonna pull up that leg stitch. So when we have that front loop worked, that's the back loop of that stitch. Here's the leg. So let's get in there. Oh, that time looks like I picked up too much. There we go. That looks just right. And this one is going to be tricky, but we're gonna do it. So now I'm gonna go under both loops to complete my increase, and then I'm gonna pull you up on top. Nice. Take this out, finish off that increase. Got it? Oh, almost. Oh, there we go. We did it. All right, kind of tricky, but let's go ahead and set ourselves up for success again, because we're going to be skipping 6 stitches one more time. So let's look at the front. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which means that this is the stitch we're going to be working into. So I'm going to mark it just because I have a baby brain. And let's go ahead and just double count. Remember, measure twice, cut once, as they say. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, so that is the right stitch. Now let's look at the back of it. This one's going to be trickier to see because here's the chain that we worked in the previous round, but there's that bump that we need. So let's go ahead and take it out, get up into this leg. There we go. All right. So we are all set to go. Now this time we're going to chain 16 stitches, and then we're going to single crochet into that space that we made. So I'm just going to get my yarn ready so I can keep these as loose as they need to be. So 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. All right. So now let's pick up the rest of our leg, turn it around over here. Now let's count to make sure we're going the right one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then into the 7th. We're going under both of those, and then we're going to pull that leg loop on top of our hook. Nice. And single crochet into there. Okay. And now that round is actually done. So this is going to actually change the location of our starting round, just to be aware of that. But let's get going. We can actually take out the stitch marker because this is a lie now. And let's work into these chains. So we're going to start with 7 single crochets. So here's number 1. And mark it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And these should all be in the single crochets from that previous round, and I suppose that increase. And all the rest of these next, what would they be, 16 stitches, are going to go into this chain. I'm not going to make you struggle through me getting through 16 of these. So I'm going to do these off camera, and then I'll come back and we'll finish off this little gam. All right, so I'm done with those 16 in the chain. Hope they weren't too bad for you. And to finish off this round, we just need to do a single crochet in that last stitch. Bam. All right, and I promise the rest of this is going to be pretty easy. Well, the rest of the leg is going to be pretty easy to do. Let's go ahead and take out the stitch marker, and now we're just going to close off this little hole that we've made. So to do that, we're going to do some decreases, but we're going to do them in like very specific orders to, again, kind of maintain the shaping that we want. So round 20 is going to start with a single crochet. Blammo. Excuse me, we'll go ahead and throw that in there. Then we're going to do 1 decrease. Oh, maybe. There we go. Then we'll do 1 decrease. All right. Then we'll do 4 repeats of 2 single crochets and a decrease. So where am I? There we go. 1, 2. There's my stitch marker for the chains. We don't need that anymore. 1, 2, and decrease 1. Then 1 and 2, decrease 2, I feel like, should I do an increase instead of a decrease? 1, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, no, okay, cool. Whew. So that was 1, 2, decrease 2. So 1, 2, decrease 3. Nope. There we go. And then 1, 2, and decrease 4. And then we're going to finish off this round with 1 more decrease and then 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Cool. All right. So that one was pretty harmless. Next one is going to be round 21, which is going to start with a decrease. So let's go in there, put in our first stitch. Put our decrease in there. Go ahead and mark it so we don't lose where we are. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets. And now we'll get into our repeat of the round, which will be a decrease and a single crochet. We're going to go ahead and do that 3 times. So decrease, single 1, decrease, single 2, decrease, single 3. Then we need 2 decreases. That's not how you do a decrease, is it? That's how you do a decrease. So 1 decrease, 2 decrease, and then we're going to end off this round with a single crochet, and that'll be 12 stitches in this round, which makes our next one very easy for closing off because we're just going to do 6 decreases. So let's get in there and do our first one. Go ahead and give that a mark. Our second. Our third. Where are we? Here we go. 4. Oh, that was probably pretty much all off camera. Sorry, but you know how to do a decrease. It's an intermediate pattern. There's 5 and 6. All right. So this is the last stitch of the, what'd you call it? The haunch. So let's go ahead and single crochet that through. So I'm going to pull this and we need to sew this in. So I'm going to take this a little bit further, giving it maybe, I don't know, a good 4 or 5 inches. Give that a snip, pull the yarn out, pull this out, and you should have something that kind of looks like this. Interesting shape, yeah? That's going to give us that form that we want because this is going to be situated kind of like this. So we'll have like a nice kind of curve. You'll see, you'll see, you'll see. So let's go ahead and close this off. Now this is going to be a different closing method than I think a lot of people have seen, unless you've seen my video on how to do the patch decreases. But what we're going to do is we're going to be working through, we're going to work like 2 stitches together. We're not going to put one in every stitch. So here's the next stitch that I would need to work in. I'm going to go underneath that back loop, and then I'm going to go up through the middle of my next stitch. Let me do that again so you can really see it. Going to go into that back loop, then up through the next one. And I'm going to do that 2 more times. So I'm going in through the back loop. So this one's kind of split, but we got there. Up through the next one. Then in through the back loop, up to the next one. I believe that in sewing, this is called a purse string stitch. It's used for closing holes because what happens is it pulls all of those parts in onto themselves towards the center. which means that we don't get a little bump like you do with that other kind of going through each stitch. Like, can you see that? Like, that's pretty much seamless. So we got that all down. I'm gonna go back in through the middle of it, which is probably not there. It's probably, we're just gonna go into here. This feels like the right spot. Cool. And give that another tug. Make sure we're happy with the way that that's laying, which I am. And I normally don't weave in my ends on Amigurumi, but I am gonna weave this one in just because it's kind of at a pivotal point. So I'm just gonna go under like 2 and then go under it, go through that same stitch again. And I'm going to call that pretty much good. Yeah, that feels secure to me. Okay, so now we need to work into the little hole guy right here. So we've made our haunch, right? We've made what's gonna be our calf. So now we have to fill in this knee gap. This is, again, gonna be part of the Parchment method. This is kind of step 2. Step 1 is we make the little hole, and step 2 is that we fill that little hole. So the first thing that we're gonna do is do single crochets around this whole thing. But there are a couple of places where we're gonna need to do our single crochets differently. And we are also going to be working in joined rounds from here. So if we look at this little guy, we have this kind of connecting piece right here, right? It's connecting the chains from the top down to here. It's going to be that side stitch of that single crochet we put into. That's going to be referred to as a corner stitch. So we're going to work, we're going to pull up from this middle. So let's go 4 stitches in to try to keep it even. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's my 4th stitch. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to pull up a loop in my yellow. Now, I would suggest doing a pull up and a chain to get started as opposed to like doing a standing single crochet, just because the standing single crochet will leave a gap if you do it that way. So let's just go ahead and get you on here. I'm going to pull up a loop. And I'm going to chain 1 to get that attached. And I'm going to encase that tail in these first 2 single crochets. So there's 1. And then there's 2. Okay. So now we have this corner on this other side. And what we want to do is we want to minimize the holes that we're going to get. So we're going to kind of do almost like a pseudo decrease here. So here's the next stitch that we need to work into. I'm going to pull up a loop in this stitch. Then under both of these little corner stitches, I'm going to go into those and pull up a loop. So let me show you. So here's the stitch we need to work into. Pulling up a loop there. Then we have those 2 stitches. Those are going to be our corner stitches on that side. This side, I'm going to go into one of them. And I'm going to go immediately into the other one. And I'm going to pull up a loop through the both of those. There we go. So I have 3 loops on my hook, and I'm going to single crochet. That's just really going to help close that gap so that we don't get any holes. Now here is the fun part where we get to see how well you did your chains. We did 6 chains, remember, around this part, and now we need to work into those chains. And those can be somewhat difficult to identify. So let me show you what we're going to be looking for. Now we have a back bump of our chain, and that is what we're going to be working into. So let's get real close up into here. So if you kind of look at this, these both are back bumps. Kind of hard to tell. If I look on this ridge, there are these stitches that are skipping above. And if we look kind of from the inside, when you think of like the way that you would draw a chain, right? You would have like a square, then a line going down, then a square. super simplified version. I'll put what I'm talking about like up over here. So do you see that? It's like squarish rectangle, line, squarish rectangle, line, kind of looks like a chain. You have that here if you really look at it. So square, bump, square, bump. Really kind of hard to make out and discern. But square, bump. Let's see if we can get it a little bit better over here on these sides. Yeah, so do you see that bump there? The square going into it right there. Hard to see. I think it's like, it's harder to see on camera. When you're looking at your piece, you'll be able to tell. So there's going to be 6 of those that you need to work into. And if I pull this real close up here, so there's that corner that I just worked in. And if I go like right next to it, do you see that little bump right there? That's going to be my first back loop. Let me see if I can point at it. That's my first back loop. There's my second back loop. I think that one would be my third. So we're going to work into those. This is why I said to make sure you kind of make your chains loose-ish. We're starting by working into the harder side where it was tighter, like towards the end. We're working kind of like the opposite direction that we were before. So if need be, just get a little tutor in there, you know, help pull that up. And we'll get in there. And there's our first one into those back loops. Gonna need 5 more. So then if I look, see square, line coming out, square, that's where my chain is. My back bump rather. So I'm gonna go into there. What? Ooh, I don't know if I like doing that. Yeah, let's just use this needle again. Kind of splitting that yarn that's underneath it. There we go. So there's number 2. So this is all kind of just like methodical work. So do you see that again? Square, bump. There's number 3. And it looks like now we're kind of in the clear. Let's move this around again. Again, I'm using kind of small size 3 yarn. So if you're using something bigger, this might be a little bit easier, but there's that next bump. See, kind of square, chain, square. So there's number 4. Then this is where it gets hard because of the angle, but there's 5. And then this is going to be the one that's going to be the hardest to identify because it goes into a single crochet. So we're not really going to have that same kind of chain look that we had before, but this prominent one that's coming out of where the one that we just worked into went in is a stitch that we want. Do you see that? This chain that we just worked at is going into here, and the thing that's coming out of there is this one. That's how I know that that's our last back bump. So I'm gonna go into there. All right, and now we're gonna do pretty much the same thing that we did at the other corner, where we're gonna work through both corner stitches and the next stitch, but they're gonna be different stitches that we work into. So for this side, I'm gonna really pull this so that you can see. We have, this is the one that we just worked into, right? Then this is the leg of the corner stitch, and that corner stitch is going into this stitch from that previous round. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to go through both of these stitches, but we're going to go through the front loop. So if I look at the side, this one has 2 loops. Oop, that compose it. It's a leg stitch of the previous round. We're just going to go through the front one. Then this one, because it's just a regular single crochet, also has 2 loops. There's one of it. there's the, oh, come on, get in there. 1, there's the 2 of it. Do you see that? So we're gonna pick up 1 in both of those, then into our next stitch. So like before, I'm gonna go directly under, doing that front loop only though, of both of those. I'm gonna yarn over and pull through, pull up a loop. Then I'm gonna go into the stitch that that's going into, yarn over and pull, or the stitch that's the next stitch I need to work into, sorry. Yarn over and pull up a loop, and then finish that off. So that's gonna be our, what would that be? We did 3 plus 6, so that's 9. So that's our 10th. And then we should have 2 more on this because there's 6 in that front row. So 10, 11, and 12. And that row is all done. Kind of tricky, but we got in there. Now all we need to do is join it. So let's get into that stitch. This join's a little tricky because it's where you attach the yarn into the hook, but we'll be good. All right, I'm gonna pull that. Now, to make your life easier, try to get this tail out of the way. It's like in a really awkward position, but just pull it through. It will still probably end up getting in our way, but you know, it's the intention that counts. And that was hard, but next thing is easy because we're just gonna decrease across that round. So I'm gonna chain 1 and I'm gonna put 6 decreases in. So let's see, get underneath there. Nice. I feel my stitches are kind of tight here. So decrease 1. Decrease 2. Decrease 3. Decrease 4. Oop. I almost worked in that stitch twice, so it's actually this one. Decrease 5. And then decrease 6. All right, so that is all the decreases for that round, and then we just need to join this. So there we go. And we're gonna join, pull it tight, and pull out a yarn, leaving what you call it, a tail that's long enough for sewing again. So give that a snip. And we are going to close this off exactly how we did it in our last one. So let's just go ahead and thread our needle. The only thing that makes this a little trickier is that we had the join. So our first stitch might be a little bit harder to find, or the first one that we want to go into. So if I pull that, that's going into here, which is our join. See that? So I'm going to go into the U first, then into my next one. And then we'll do that again. Go into there, up through the next one. And our final time, this one's kind of hard to see, but it's this stitch right here, into there, up through the next one. Perfect. Give that a nice little tug. Cinch that all up. Looks good. Are we happy? Let's find the middle, or where we want to go in. I think we're going to go in here this time. And then I'm gonna pull that tight again, just to make sure that I'm happy with that placement, which looks good to me. So then this one as well, it's gonna be a little bit trickier, but we just wanna find a spot where we can kind of wrap this yarn around. So I'm gonna go into here, actually, here, and here, and then here. And we're good. So that, my friends, is going to be the left leg. We do need to stuff it, and we need to get these tails in here. These probably don't need to be so long. Let's give these a snip. And yeah, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna actually go and make the next leg, the right leg first, and then we'll stuff these together so that we can, I don't know, vibe out. Just, I feel like sometimes when you stuff pieces that are supposed to match, if you stuff one first, you can stuff it too full, and then the other one, you kind of lose your sense of touch, whatever. So let's go ahead and make our next leg, and then we'll stuff them together. Now, the right leg is going to be pretty much the exact same steps that we did for here. There's a couple things that are going to be different, but the main difference is that we're mirroring all of our stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this kind of like how we did the other toe, where I'll show you each round what it should look like. We'll have the stitch map up there, and then I'll just yap in some of the key rounds. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Toe, foot, what? Okay. Words, bye. See you in round, oh my gosh, all right, I'm just gonna stop. Right leg, let's go. Right leg, left stomp. Round 1. Round 2. All right, round 3. Came in real slow on that one. All right, so it's toe attachment time. I'm gonna do this one with you, so let's bring up that chart again. So remember, in row 4, we're gonna do side of toe, middle, 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 side. And then around 5, we're gonna do side, decrease, decrease, side. So let's get going. Remember, this is also gonna be the first time that we're doing a mirrored round in this row. So we're gonna start off 4 with 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and grab our toesies. Our first stitch is going to go into the number 5. 5th stitch of the round, this yellow guy. Got mixed up there for a second. So we're gonna go into there, remember, from the inside of the hole to the outside, and attach this to the next stitch on our toe pad. And single crochet that together. All right, so it's gonna be the next one, the bottom stitch, and go into the next one here. Single crochet that together. Now we need the bottom of our middle toe. We can see the 2 slip stitches. There's 1, there's 2. So it's gonna be this guy right here. And then toe pad. Ooh. Got caught on something there. All right. Then the bottom of our next toe. This one's a little bit trickier. Looks like there's our tail inside the toe, which is very helpful for us. This is the next stitch that we need. Then we're gonna go in. Now we need to do the side of this toe, which is gonna be the next stitch coming up. And that's gonna go in as well. And then we're gonna end off round 4 with 3 single crochets. Two and 3 single crochets. Okay, so now we'll join, and as per the chart, this one, if we look over here, we're gonna go not joining, side of the toe, decrease, decrease, side of the toe. So let's start off round 5 with our chain and then 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. Now let's look at that toe, work into that first stitch, the side. Now our decreases are going to go in, and remember we marked them. So our first one, get that bad boy out, go into the front, get that tail out of the way. Our second one, let's get that bad boy out, go into the front and crochet those together. Perfect. Now remember, we need to do our half decrease in the same stitch as that join. So let's go ahead and pick up those 2 loops from our previous decrease and find where that join is. So here's the tail for that join. Pull that, and it looks like it's that stitch right there. So we're just gonna go into the top of that, or the front of that rather. Perfect. Pull that through all 3 of those and single crochet. Then our next stitch will be going into the side of the toe, which leaves us with 3 single crochets to finish the round. See, that one's going into there. So here's our next one. 1, 2, and 3. All right, I'm going to tuck in my tails and do the next round, so I'll see you guys in a second. Round 6. Woo. Round 7. Round 8. And now it's stuffing time. Remember that it's going to be less stuffing than you think it's going to be. That looks like just as much as I thought it would be. That feels like less than I think it would be. All right, so let's get it in. Remember, it's like a push, or like smash and push. There's a joke there somewhere. I don't know where it is though. So gonna get that down. Nice. Here we're going. All right. Remember, we don't really want to put this in the toes. We're just trying to fill out that little bottom area. How was your guys' week? Mine was pretty good. My day job is outside, and it's been super hot. So I've been drinking like a liter of water in the morning and like a liter of water in the afternoon, which I guess is good that I'm staying hydrated, but it still just feels like a lot of water. Okay, we're almost in there. Woo, woo, woo. That being said, y'all, drink a glass of water. You probably need it. All right. There we go. There's the traction. Okay, so remember, like I said, let's take a peek. Are we bulging anywhere? Doesn't really look like it. Does it feel pretty firm? And then are we down from the top? We are. This though is feeling, this one feels kind of better. I'm gonna put just a fraction more in there. Put in way less than I thought I was gonna need. Guess my initial instinct was right this time, but it's easier to add than it is to take out. Okay. Yeah, that feels a little bit, that feels actually a lot better. All right, so get back to these quick ones, remember that these next couple of rounds, we're gonna start adding yellow. So in this next round, add some of your yellow in, unless you're doing the simplified color version, in which case, continue working all in your body color. All right, see you in a bit. Row 9. And remember, the next row, we're going to be adding more of the yellow, and we want our final stitch to end in yellow because the rest of it is going to be worked in. Say it with me, class. Yellow. Round 10. Don't forget to tuck in the tails, cut off your orange, and encase it in the next couple of stitches in the next round. All right. Round 11. Ooh. I'm going to get that tail out of the way. Round 12. Round 13. Remember, in the next round, round 14, notice we are not joining. All right, so there's round 14. And remember, we're not joining, and I'm gonna do these next couple of rows with y'all. So for row 15, we're gonna start with a single crochet, and then we're gonna do our single crochet 3 together. Let's go ahead and get that one marked. Woo! Okay. So we single crochet 3 together. Remember, it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 on those front loops. Pull through. And there's 1. Then we have to do our increase. And then we have another 3 together. Perfect. And we're going to end off this round with 6 singles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So our next round is going to be where we're going to be starting those patches. And we're going to do a single and then do our chains. So let's go ahead and get that leg stitch pulled up in this first single before we even start. So I'm just going to go ahead and take out this stitch marker. And let's go ahead and find where that leg is. So here's the next stitch we're working on. We want to go directly underneath it and right into there. That's going to be our leg. So again, kind of hard to find. There's that back loop, or I guess our front loop now. Then we're going to go under, and right underneath it, that's where our leg's going to be. So let's go ahead and pull that up. Ooh, can be tricky. I'm going to be going in from the other way. There we go. So get that locked on. And let's get into it. Where's my loop at? Nice. All right, so round 16 is gonna start with the single crochet that's going into that leg. So I'm gonna go into here, and then I'm gonna pull that leg up and onto my hook. See if I can get it on camera. Kind of. Nice. All right, so let's get out the stitch marker. And we're gonna, ooh, this one's a tough one. Cool, got it. All right, and then we're gonna need to do our chain 6, skip 6, and go back into that other leg. So let's go find that leg stitch first so that it's easier and we set ourselves up for success. All right, so if I look at this, here's the stitch we just worked into. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So here's the next stitch we need to work, just so I don't lose it with my baby brain. And we'll go into the inside. So there's the stitch, that right there is going to be the leg. So if I look at the front, here, I'll get this out for you. So if I look at the front, there's that V, blah, blah, or VV, this front. If I follow that down, connects directly into here, which is where we're going to put our stitch marker. And remember, if you need, like if you want a better example or more clear, more focused on how to find that stitch, go ahead and check the video that there should already be a card for. I think it's called like Amigurumi Shaping Part 2 or something like that. Alrighty, so we got our single crochet in. Oop, forgot to mark it. And we're going to chain 6, and then we're going to work into that stitch. So let's go. Remember, keep these loose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now let's go into that stitch. Remember, we're skipping 6. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this 7th stitch right here, we're going to go under both of them. And then I'm going to hoist it up and put it on my hook. Nice. So we'll take that off. And that's going to be one of our 5 single crochets that end the round. And this round's going to end in that first stitch of the round. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Get this out of here. Okay. So this one's going to be a little bit tricky in our next round. We're going to be working into those chains like we did last time, but our first stitch is an increase. And that increase is going to be going into that first chain. Then we'll work 5 more stitches across the rest of the chain and then finish off the round. So let's go ahead and get in here. So let me pull this up for us real quick so you can see what we're doing. So there's our first chain, right? There's our first back bump. I'm still going to work this as an invisible increase. So I'm going to go just through the front loop of that chain, work a single crochet, and then I'm going to go under both, which can be a lot easier just to go like pick up that back bump fully. Yep, we got it. And then do our single crochet. It's the same thing. And then let's go ahead and mark that first part of our increase as our first stitch. So that's worked our first chain. So let's see where we are. Here, we got a chain up here. We just went into this one. So here's our next one right there. So let's go into that. Sometimes counting from the back bumps can be a little bit easier. And this one is going to bulge a bit because we did just, I just lost it. We did just like increase the size of this stitch, so this one's going to be a little bit harder to work into. Let's just do it how we did it last time. I'm just going to pick up that back bump because I can see that. Nice. So there's the second chain that we've worked into. Now look from the front. Here's our next chain. Gonna go up and in. Keep on wanting to like pull it closer to me, but then you guys can't see it. All right, so there's the third chain we worked into. Let me get this yarn all nice and happy. Okay, so here's that. Now we're back to that kind of long game. So go into here. That feels good. There's the fourth chain that we worked into. Now the next one. Here's the fifth chain. Ooh, maybe. There we go. There's the 5th chain we worked into, and the 6th one, which is actually sitting fairly pretty this time. It's not too insane, but let's see how it goes. Don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. There we go. I'm gonna open that up just to make it easier to work. And there's the 6th chain we worked into. Okay, so not too hard. Wasn't the easiest, but you know what? We did it. So our next stitch is going to be a single crochet. Then we're going to work an increase, and then 3 single crochets to end off the round. So there's a 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. So not too bad, but that one should be good. Our next one's going to be a little bit different. Let me pull up the chart for us because it gets a little bit funky here. All right. So, round 18, what we're going to be doing here is we need to kind of mimic what we did on the other side, but because it's mirrored, it's not going to work the same way. So we're going to do the same thing where we're doing a chain and working our single crochets, but we're going to work them at the same time using foundation single crochets. Does kind of sound weird. We are at the end of the skip going to need to work into that V again. So yeah, you'll see. It's gonna be fine. It's hard for me to kind of like explain this because I'm more of like a visual kind of learner person. But yeah, I don't know, you'll see. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna start with 6 single crochets. So I'm gonna go 1 into here. Hooray. Okay, so there's my first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we got our 6 starting single crochets in. We know that we're going to be doing our foundations next, but that last stitch is going to have to go and act almost like a corner stitch. So let's go ahead and find that back leg first. So if I'm here, I'm going to need to skip 6 of these bad boys. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is our 7th stitch, and that's the one that we're going to need to work into. So if I bring it to the back, if I go down from the top, then our leg is going to be here. It's kind of being pushed by that other stitch marker, but that's okay. So let's go ahead. Oop, I think I picked up a couple of those. Picked up a couple more. There we are. And we're golden. All right, so let's look at how we're going to do these foundation single crochets. There's a tutorial on the channel on how to do a foundation single. I'll link it up there. And the way that we're going to start this off so that we don't get any gaps is we're going to do our first kind of pull through in that same stitch that we just worked into. So let's go in there. Act like that's our first 2 on our hook for our foundation. So I'm gonna go yarn over, pull through 1, then I'm gonna yarn over, pull through 2, and that's gonna be our first like 1 in the chain, right? So let's go ahead and put a stitch marker in that just so that we can count a little bit easier. And we're gonna need to do 15 more of these so that we'll have a total of 16, including this one. And so remember to do a foundation. We're gonna go through both of these little leg loops right here. And I always find it's easiest to pick up one and then do the other. And make sure we only have 2 loops in our hook. I missed one of them. So let's get back in here. So we're gonna go in there. If you don't feel any resistance when you're in there, you most likely just went through the center and didn't actually pick up the stitches over the back bump thing that's there. Again, see the tutorial for like the full guide on how to do these, but it's pretty important that we get both of the stitches. Not even like me trying to even just pick up one of them. Oh, I feel it. I feel it. There we go. Okay, so go in there. Then I'm going to go through 1, then go through 2. All right, so let's try this again, maybe a little bit easier. So I'm going to go under that first, and then I'm going to turn to the side. We have this one that's going in. That's the one that we actually want to work over. And this one on the left right here is the one that I want to go into. I am admittedly not the best at foundation single crochets. There are some people that like don't need to use 2 fingers to get in there or 2 steps to get into the right stitch, but I'm not one of them. So here's 1, and here's 2. So let me show you that one more time. So I'm going to go in through that, over into here. Nope, that was the middle. Go up and over. The reason that we're being really methodic with this is just like the other one. We don't want to get any gaps in our work, and this is an easy place to get them if we don't work these right. Also, it's going to help us in the future when we're working into these stitches to have everything kind of lined up and done correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest of these off screen so you don't have to watch me struggle, and I'll meet you back. So remember, we want to have in total 15 of these foundations. If we count from where our stitch marker is, including that one, we'll have 16 of these done. So I'll see you once I'm there. All right, so I got to all of my foundations, all 16, well, 1 plus 15. And a couple things here first. So what we're going to want to do is we want to actually mark the like chain made by the foundation because we are going to use it later, much later, but later. So right under here, actually, let me pull this out because I think it'll be easier for you guys to see. So we got our front V for our foundation, right? Then we got these 2 little loops on the live loop. And then if we come here to the back, this is like our like fake chains that we've made from the foundation, right? So this very last one that we made right here, we're gonna put a stitch marker in there because it can be easy to lose where this stitch is, and we are going to need it for later. So I'm just gonna put a stitch marker in that, not splitting it. There we go. And we're just gonna let that hang out. So let's load back up. And our next stitch is going to be a increase to finish off the round. And we're gonna do it kind of how we did it in the other round, where our first one's gonna go in this front loop, our first single crochet. Nice. And then our second single crochet is gonna go through that leg. So I'm gonna go under both loops here. And then I'm gonna pull that leg onto my hook So many stitch markers. Gonna take out that stitch marker. Whoop. And finish my increase. Okay. So that is the hard part done. We don't need this one anymore. We can finally move on to doing some easy stuff for a little bit. Why does mom let us ever do anything easy? So I'm gonna do these ones how we've been doing the last, because it's just gonna be finishing off and closing up the hole. Alrighty. All right, so there's row 19. Bloop. And here's row 20. And here's the end of 21. So, time to close this bad boy off. Remember, like 4 or 5-ish, just to make it easier. And then, bloop. Get this threaded up. I'll do this with you guys just so that I can show you how it goes. So we're going to want to go through our next stitch from the back loop, then up through the next, pull through, then our next one, down through the next, and up. Remember, we're just catching that back loop of the first one, and I guess just the back loop of the second one too. And our last one right here, gonna go down and up. Perfect. Let's give that a nice tug to close it off. See where the middle is. Where do we want to go this time? I think I'm gonna go right in here. And we'll give that another tug in the back. Make sure we're happy. I think we're happy. And let's go ahead and work it through just a couple of stitches. Technically, I don't even know if I would consider this weaving in your ends, because we're basically just almost doing a knot, but you know, nobody wants to say just do a knot. But I think that'll be good. All right, so I'm going to cut this just so it stays out of the way. And let's go ahead and get this all sorted out. So we're gonna do pretty much exactly the same thing that we did when we closed off our other knee. So let's identify our stitches. They might look a little bit different than they did last time, but we should be all right. So right here, we've got our corner stitch, which means that's going to be our first stitch of the round. So I'm going to count out to the fourth one. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here's where we're going to pull up our loop. So I'm going to pull that up. Let's make that tail a little bit bigger. I'd feel safer with that longer tail. And chain, and I am going to encase that tail in these first 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and 2. Okay. So our next one is going to be our one that we need to work in with the corners. So if we look at this, there's those 2 corner ones. See those? And our stitch that we need to work into. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a loop in that stitch, and we're going to go through both those corners. So I'm going to go into the one and then directly into the other. This one's kind of tighter, but that's because it's more fun, I suppose. And then go and pull through both. Nice. So now we have the 6 to work into those back bumps of the chain. See how easy they are to see on this one. So I pull those up. There's our first one. You see there's some of those bumps. We're kind of getting that square effect. See, square, bump, square. So let's go ahead and work our first one. Remember, this one will probably be pretty tight. No, this one's not too bad. Awesome. So there's our first one. Square there. And there's our second one. Then square here. There's our third. That one's our fourth. Perfect. Oh, we forgot to get that tail out of the way. I'll do that in a second. There's our fifth. And then here's our sixth one. And now it's time to work our next corner. And remember, we're going to do the side of this stitch, the front loop of that one, and then the front loop of the one that it's going into. And then we're going to combine that with our next one. So I'm going to go through the front loop of the corner, the front loop of the one that it's going into. There we go. And I'm going to pull up a loop there. And then I'm going to go into the front loop of the full thing of our next stitch. And do those together. Perfect. And now we've got 2 more stitches in this round. So there's 1 and 2. And we are going to join this one with a slip stitch. And pull that tight. And we're good. So let's, oh yeah, I wanted to get that little loop out of the way, huh? Hi tail, bye tail. You can hang out back here for me, that'd be great. All right, so chain 1 and easy peasy, 6 decreases. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Cool. And then join this one. Where are we? Here we go. And leave ourselves the tail for sewing. Where are my snips at? Got them. Oh. I think I need some new snips because these guys I think are getting a little too dull. There we are. Get this threaded. I think that's one of the simple pleasures in life is having just like a super sharp pair of scissors. There's really nothing like it. All right. So we're going to close it up the same way, but remember we need to go into the stitch that we joined into first. So there's our join stitch. So I'm going to go into there and this little fitting guy right there. There we are. Oop, don't want to lose it. Go into the next stitch. Oop, next stitch. And up to its little pal. Then our next one, and up through its little pal. Give that a pull. Nice. And let's tuck this bad boy in. I think here's the correct answer. pull and check. Yeah, it looks nice. Looks real nice. And then let's secure it back here. Where should we secure it under? Let's go here. And whoop, keep on losing it. There we go. Here and here. Okay. All right, I need to go grab my stuffing, but let me go do that, and then we will come back and we will stuff these guys. But there you go, right leg pretty much almost done. All right, see you guys in a second. Alrighty, so it's stuffing time. Our goal here is we want to stuff our calves firm. We're going to leave the knees free because we don't need to really stuff those right now. And we want to keep the ankle free. So we kind of want to stuff like from here to here, whoop, like this area pretty firmly. So let's get to it. I'm going to use these little scrap tails that we've gathered. I'm going to throw those in. Actually, let's cut you too because you're looking pretty long. Bloop. And get these in here. This is a great piece for using yarn scraps. In general, whenever you're stuffing something, I always just like to go for the yarn scraps first because it's, you know, they're there. Where else are they going to go in the trash? Reduce, reuse, recycle. We only have one planet here. So yeah, let's make sure we get all those tails in, and most of them should probably work in as we do our stuffing. So, let's see. Remember, the goal here is firm, thick calves. You know, thick thighs save lives, and thick calves save something. Rafts? Calf? I don't know what else rhymes with calf. Let's see. Let's bring in the big guns for here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we did help with the shaping of this guy. So we want to make sure that when we're stuffing, we're kind of respecting that. So let's see what we got here. I'm over full, but this is kind of going to give you a good picture of what we've made. So we've made kind of like a bulbousy, teardroppy shape, which is what we're going for here. So it's gonna come out a little bit more on this side, and this is gonna be a little bit sleeker, but it's still gonna be rounded. So what I kind of think is a good idea is let's get the bulk of this in here, and then we'll kind of shape it around because we also want the back to be thick and juicy. So you see that we've got kind of like a thick, juicy part here, and then here we want kind of more flat. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go in with my hook, and I'm gonna just kind of pop these things where they need to go. You know, I'm pushing it against the side, going like into the middle of the stuffing, and then kind of just teasing it over to where it needs to be. It's kind of like when you're stuffing after you've closed something off, and we're scraping it kind of against the walls to kind of get there. But that feels good. If you notice here, that's really, really bendy because there isn't really any stuffing in there, but the rest of this is feeling pretty firm. It feels a little wonky right there, so I think what I'm gonna do is gonna fill out just the tiniest bit more in that core. So I'm just gonna push this like straight down in there just to really give it some oomph. Yeah, okay. Maybe bulk some out on that side as well. Just kind of feeling around, mostly shoving this in the middle, but kind of coaxing it just the tiniest bit. Remember, we're gonna fill in this knee space later once we attach this to the body. So kind of leave the stuffing out, but I think that feels good. Nice. So we've got a good little juicy calf, little chicken leg right there. So let's go ahead and do that to the next one. And they are going to be symmetrical as much as possible. If you're used to doing makeup, this is kind of eyebrow rules, right? Where they're going to be sisters, not twins. So let's get in here. Really, I think in general, when we're thinking about symmetricality in most art, you know, if you're doing something that's geometric, symmetricality is going to be really important. But most of the time, you want to think of your symmetrical things as being sisters and not twins. It's really rare in nature for things to be symmetrical. It's really more of like a kind of a human design. So things tend to look more natural if they have some slight variance. And more importantly, it makes it so that you don't go crazy trying to get everything perfect. All right, so let's look at that. Another thing that's really going to affect this is how your tension was. So the steadier you can keep your tension, the easier it's going to fill up too. Because remember, we made a guide through all that shaping that we were doing. But do you see that? Like, it's already even filling itself out into the shape that we made. It's one of the reasons why I really love doing shaping in the Amigurumi. I feel like it makes everything feel a little bit more realistic when we don't have just like a tube. Maybe not more realistic is the word I'm looking for. It looks like it has more form, more space. I think it creates a little bit more interesting of a shape. I think that's probably the nicer way to put it. Okay, so this is feeling good. I think I can already tell though that I feel like my tension in this leg was a lot looser than my tension in the other. Let's see how they compare. Yeah, see how much bigger this one is? That's going to be a tension issue. So we've got two options here. Actually, that's not too bad. Remember, sisters, not twins. Oh, something that I'll bring up. Because these rounds are done different, right? This one has single crochets that are worked into a chain, whereas this one is going to be more of our singles worked into a chain, but the foundation row has a chain thing here. They're going to look different is what I'm trying to say, but don't worry, that's going to work out in the wash. But yeah, I think we're going to be good. One thing that I'm noticing here is, yeah, this one, the tension's looser, so it looks like it's a little bit thicker, but I don't think that it's noticeably that much thicker. It does look tastier though. So maybe what I'm going to do instead is I might actually beef out this one a little. I might try to fill some more stuffing in right there because I like this shape a little bit more. So let's go in there. So I'm really going to try to aim this to go into this little pocket space. You can almost see my hook kind of like pushing in that direction. Go on, get. There we go. Really trying to aim it towards the front there. Ooh, there we go. I felt that go in. Now, we don't want to get it so the stuffing's showing, but that really helps, I think. Let's see now. Yeah, now they're looking more like. This one's still thicker on the sides. But I think we've achieved it. I think those are some good looking sisters. So yeah, there we are. Let's clean this up a little bit and take a peek at what we got. So we've got right here our right leg and our left leg. I guess this is as if we're looking at them because they will go on like that, right? But yeah, we got some nice little goofy chicken legs. I hope yours are coming out just as good as mine are. But that's going to be all for part 1 of the Ahriman tutorial. So the next week, we're gonna be doing his wings, which aren't as intense, but do have some little quirks about them. I would say that it's probably a good time if you haven't looked at and or practiced the reverse stitches. That'll be a video, I'll put a link up here. Yeah, I would practice those because we're gonna be doing a lot of rows in the wings in that. But yeah, that's the tutorial for the week. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Stay tuned to finish your cute little Ahriman. And I hope you guys all have a good week. I will see you later. Bye-bye. Howdy y'all, I'm Katz. And today I have a band-aid on my finger because I cut myself.